You
Yeah, you
did.
did.
Yeah,
We've been watching you. It looks
do.
good.
Tell us about Ghana.
photos. Oh, Ghana. Well, I want to tell you about Senegal, Beverly. I want to go out to Senegal with
Tell
you.
me about Senegal as well.
Yeah, hello everyone. Max McGillivray, Beanstalk Global. We are live with the eclectic team from Women in Food and Farming, and we're live today with Lucy Wager. We're just waiting for all the feeds to kick in. And who have we lost? Where's Lucy gone? No, you're there. We've got everyone, haven't we? Christine keeps on dropping in and out because we can't quite figure out what country she's in. We think it's begins with S. It's either San Francisco. That's not a country. Senegal, or help me with a country that begins with S. Somerset.
It's Portugal.
Oh, it's Portugal.
Yeah.
And she speaks.
Spain, but it's Portugal.
Yeah. D-Mob happy. Right, who are we going to pick on to tell us about Women in Food and Farming? I'm going to run the roulette wheel, and it's chosen Beverly. Beverly, where are you today, please, in the countryside?
I'm in Ashridge. I'm starting my second year of an executive coaching program. And on the way here, my electric car completely gave way on me. So a tow truck it's now in the garage in Cheltenham. I'm about 100 miles away from Cheltenham with now a petrol hire car.
Oh no! So would you recommend that people that don't already have an electric car go out and buy an electric car with your recent experiences, Beverly?
Of course I would. It keeps your adrenaline flowing.
Okay, where are you going in 10 days' time in your electric car that you don't yet have back?
Well, I was going to Spain, so let's hope that it gets delivered back in time.
Okay, well, in our green room, everyone, I did offer Beverly my XC60 Volvo with 182,000 miles on, but Beverly declined something to do with the dog hair and the crisps. I thought I was going to get Beverly to introduce Women in Food and Farming. That didn't work. Christine,
you asked me about where was I?
Oh, well, no, okay. Right, we're done with you. Christine, Women in Food and Farming. Why are you in Portugal, Christine?
I'm just in Portugal on holidays, and I'm at a juicing and exercise retreat that I came to last year. And exactly this time last year, I was here when we did our broadcast with Caroline Drummond, which, of course, a couple of months later, we look back on with sort of enormous, I suppose, appreciation, because she was no longer with us. And so it feels quite sort of poignant to me doing this broadcast here again from Portugal.
Yep, she's never going to be missed, is she, our Caroline? She achieved so much, and I love the things that are now bubbling in her really positive legacy.
Yeah, and Leaf is going from strength to strength. But at the MDS ball a couple of weeks ago, I sat next to somebody who worked at Leaf, and she hadn't really overlapped with Caroline very long at all, and she's made an enduring difference to so many people. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason that I was particularly poignant is because Caroline was a massive supporter of Women in Food and Farming, and she used to come to all of the in-person events, and as I said, she did this broadcast this time last year, so it sort of feels sad not to have her with us, and I particularly feel it when we're doing Women in Food and Farming things. But at the end, I'll give you the date of our get-together. We've got 2 get-togethers scheduled in April and September. And the exciting news is that we're going to have a website, which is we're hoping to go live one. It won't be all singing and dancing, but on International Women's Day, which is later this week. And that will be sort of part of our transition of moving away from all of the 2 years of Max hosting these things on Beanstalk Global, for which we are immensely grateful. And hopefully you'll continue to be a supporter of Women in Food and Farming for a long while to come. But it's an important network for women at all stages of their career. Both of our in-person events this year, we have sponsorship for the under 30s, so anybody under 30 can come for nothing. Or for free, and they'll obviously have to pay their own transport, but we'll give them some food and wine. And we've got speakers for both those events as well. And I think Debbie and I, between us, we've got speakers for every event up till September this year. So It really does feel like a thriving network of women. The speakers don't have to be women; they tend to be, but we're not that fussy. But just inspiring speakers and opportunities for people to get together and speak to people at all stages of their career, find mentors, and ask silly questions, and maybe questions that have really been concerning them about being a woman in this industry.
Christine, well done. And I guess with that said, if you want me to come down and take some photography for you at any of these events, so we can capture that for your website, Debbie, would that be a plan?
That would be great.
Thank you.
You did such a good job for the conference in December. That was lovely.
And Debbie, you've been in New Zealand. Were you looking at potatoes out there? What were we doing in New Zealand?
No, I was actually on holiday, but very sadly, while I was there, Cyclone Gabrielle rearranged the onion crop.
Oh no!
So I think people are going to struggle with late season availability of onions in the UK.
Not just onions, it's grapes as well in Hawke's Bay and places, isn't it?
Hawke's Bay, Naked,
Apples.
and a lot of apples were flattened as well. It was unbelievable. It was 12 inches of rain overnight, but it brought a lot of trees down the rivers, so a lot of bridges are knocked out.
Wow!
So it really is quite devastating, and it was so sad to watch that play out in a country that's got such a thriving agricultural industry normally.
Yeah, they'll survive. They'll poach on through.
The Kiwis are very pragmatic, and they're already setting to and mending, but it's hard for them. Yeah.
Well done.
It does make you think about our fresh produce supply to this country and how tentative. I mean, we've already gone without tomatoes, but how much we rely on overseas crops, and maybe the a 60% self-sufficiency in the UK is just not right for the future.
Pipe dream. And talking about surviving, Kirsty, I survived the MDS ball. That was fantastic.
You did. It was such a great event to have so many alumni and members and trainees. Everyone had a really good time. My feet are still painful from all the dancing, but it was really enjoyable.
Can I tell you my funny one? I wasn't doing the photography there, but I did take my camera to take some pictures. And there was a great moment after the various speeches when Beverly was talking to Safi, CEO of MDS. And so I sidled up, took a picture, thought I was really cool, then turned around and tripped over the camera strap of my camera, dropped my camera. Thought, I won't be doing that again.
Smooth as always, Max.
So come on, let's concentrate on our guest. Who's going to introduce Lucy for us, please?
Debbie.
Can I introduce Lucy? We worked together at Sainsbury's many years ago.
Debbie, hold on, Debbie. Let me just Kirsty, great to see you go away. Beverly, great to see you go away. Christine, great to see you go away. Oh, that's all work. Beverly, Debbie, you have the floor.
So I'd love to introduce Lucy Wager. I know her from when we've both worked together at Sainsbury's. She was an amazing and inspiring product developer, but I know since then lots of things have happened, and she's absolutely booming and blooming with lots of inspiration. So I'd like to introduce Lucy, and perhaps you could tell us a bit more about your story. Thank you.
And Lucy, before you start, I'm just going to give a bit of an intro, because the folks, Lucy, on the podcast really like a bit of a detailed understanding as to who we're going to have on. Debbie, do you want to stay on with us, or have you got your little band to look after? Debbie was waving around. What was it, Lucy? 9-week-old baby?
Yeah.
Not mine.
9-week-old baby.
Debbie's new baby called Penny.
Absolutely.
Who she bought from Waitrose. Right, come on. So we're joined today by Lucy Wager. Lucy is an accomplished food industry professional and entrepreneur with 19 years of experience in the industry. She began her career as a concept technologist in food manufacturing at Bakkavor, before moving on to work as a product developer for leading retailers such as M&S and Sainsbury's. In 2012, Lucy launched, Pudology, a first to market. Have I just murdered that, Lucy? Have I said it correctly?
Yeah, Pudology.
A first to market chilled plant-based dessert brand that went on to achieve national success. We all know that. Today, Lucy focuses on working with early stage food and drink businesses, providing guidance on all aspects of product development, food safety, compliance, and general support through the challenges of concept to launch. As a respected food industry professional, she also writes and delivers training programs for development, marketing, and commercial teams across the industry. Lucy is dedicated to inspiring and educating the next generation of food industry professionals and entrepreneurs, helping them navigate the challenges and opportunities in the industry. Her passion for innovation, food safety, and food security for all continues to be a driving force in her work. She's committed to making a positive impact in the food world for many years to come. Lucy, is that a good summary of your good self?
It is a lovely summary, and what a lovely introduction from Debbie as well. It was really, really lovely, and I'm so delighted to be here. And I think the thing that wasn't mentioned, though, which is entirely my fault probably, is that I'm also a co-host for a podcast called Oh for Food's Sake, where Amy Wilkinson, my co-host, and I talk about the challenges and the joys of working in the food industry, and sort of we pull on our combined nearly 40 years experience in the industry. So yeah, that I should definitely give that a mention as well, but that in total definitely sums me up.
And Lucy, how can we find that podcast? What do we need to look out for on the various podcast websites?
So it's O for Food's Sake.
Excellent.
All of your favourite podcast channels.
Okay, and how often does that come out, please?
It's every Thursday.
Oh, blimey, so that's quite a commitment then to do it weekly.
It is. It's a big commitment, and we started it nearly 2 years ago, and it literally just came out of Amy and I having a chat. Amy had started her coaching business. She messaged me and said, should we have a catch up? So we caught up over Zoom, hadn't spoken to each other for ages. We met when I was a graduate at Bakkavor, and then after the call we were like, that was great, wasn't it, catching up, and there was so much to talk about. And I had thought about starting a podcast because I'd not long started my consultancy business, and I was sort of just out of Pudology thinking, what can I do, what have I always dreamed about doing? And I was like, do you fancy starting a podcast? And Amy was like, yeah, let's do it. And we launched it, I think 4 weeks later or something absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And
we initially started doing bi-weekly episodes and had no idea what kind of response that we'd get, but we quite quickly got a nice following, and we then found ourselves thinking, I think we need to do this more regularly to keep the momentum going. And it is a huge commitment, and you will know, Max, I think it's one of those things that people think, let's start a podcast, but the amount of work that goes into it, and we've always had an editor because neither of us are going to think that we can edit anything, because it does take a lot of time, but we love it, and it's really useful. We both find it really useful for ourselves. It keeps us like on the straight and narrow, and we love it, and the engagement that we get and the feedback that we get is amazing, and we feel like we're giving something back to the industry, which is why we did it in the first place, to be honest.
And I think it's really good for people like yourself to do it, and also encourages other people to do it, because sometimes it feels like when you start these adventures with video or podcast, I don't know if you found the same, Lucy, it feels like you're shouting into a wood and there's no one there, and then you get this tap on the shoulder and someone will say, oh, I heard you, or I saw you, or I saw that picture, can I hear a little bit more? And it's like, oh, that worked, and then you keep going and it just builds up. But it's that continuity. That's why I'm so impressed that you're doing it weekly, because when it doesn't work, we men, as you know, are appalling at trying to do anything on a continuous basis. If you don't do it continually and people know when it's coming out, that's when it starts to fail. That's a great asset to have for the sector.
Yeah, and I to be honest, I think it really helps doing it with somebody else, and it really helps, because it's hard, because when you first start, you do feel like you're shouting into the abyss, and you don't know who's listening to you, but we just feel like we're just having a chat basically every week. We all the topics that we talk about are things that are topical or things that we want to talk about, and we just have a chat basically. We get guests on, and it's good. It's hard work, but it's good fun as well.
And so I could see you're obviously very authentic as well, and that's what works really well on podcasts as well. I've tried to get a TV series for myself and Christine, and I've plugged it to all the major channels, but the only channel that's picked up on it so far is Dave. I haven't told Christine yet, because I think she'll be a bit disappointed, because I think she was hoping to get on the World Service or something. So come on, tell us about you, Lucy. What exactly do you do? Come, let's use that. We've just walked into a wine bar or a pub, and we're just overhearing a bit of conversation, and I come up to you and go, Lucy, you sound really interesting. You sound fascinating. What do you do?
Well, I work with generally startup and early stage businesses now, helping them with any and all the challenges from a concept to launch. So in fact, I love problem solving. So when I did my own brand with Pudology, I went into it with a really good grounding on product development. As Debbie said, I met her when I was working as a product developer at Sainsbury. I'd always worked in product development. That was my sort of core competency and everything that I knew. And I created this business, Pudology, and I basically did everything from the manufacturing, the technical, the scaling, working out the logistics. And it was great because, it was like a massive, crazy, scary roller coaster with lots and lots of challenges. But I think when you work in a big business in the food industry, you're very focused on your area. My area was product development, and you kind of understand the other areas, and you know someone that works in logistics, and you know people that work in packaging. You get involved a little bit, but then when you start your own business and everything is your responsibility, you basically have to learn everything. And so I learned in that 7-year period, I learned an awful lot, and what I always say to everybody is I did way too much for way too long on my own.
Wow.
And that was because I knew a little bit about everything. So I was able to sort of ask people, learn, and that's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. But in the end, it made me miserable, to be honest. Because I sort of came out of it and I'd forgotten who I was. I'd forgotten what my passion was for the food industry. And I think we're really lucky to work in the industry because everybody eats, everybody has an opinion on food, and it's generally people like talking about food.
Yep.
And I love working in the food industry because of that. And when I finished Pudology and I started consulting, I basically realized that what I love is product development. I love the challenges that product development brings. And I love problem solving, and I love working with different people. I really enjoy the scaling up process. So taking something that you've created in a small scale and understanding the challenges that you'll have to get it to scale. And having gone through the startup process myself, I find it really rewarding working with other startup companies and early stage businesses, and a lot of them, some people have got food industry experience, some people haven't, and so that's where I focus. That's where my time has been focused.
Yep.
Because of the experiences that I've had, I think.
Yeah, but trying to remember that figure. Jan England asked me this about a year ago. There's an amazing stat over the pandemic about the number of new food businesses that are being created, especially on the back of back of COVID, because people were at home and perhaps waking up to the fact that they didn't want to be an accountant in London, and they'd actually like to set up the food business. So presumably that's been very, very positive for you, because as the expert that you are, you've had lots of newbie companies coming to you for direct advice. Yeah,
it has. And to be honest, I've worked with a few clients for quite a long time now. I've literally just had one that I've been working with 15 months that has sort of gone the full cycle. So we started together back mid 2021, and he was working full time at the beginning, and he's literally just gone time to the business. So it's been really nice because I've seen the whole process, like from the concept of the business really through to the whole process, the whole concept to launch process, and now he's in that business full time running it, and gone through the full cycle. So yes, and it is an incredible industry, because we do have a lot of new businesses and new ideas coming into the industry. And I think that has really spiraled in the last 10 years. If you think back, challenger brands now are everywhere, and they are really properly challenging the big brands. And it's changed the face of the industry really. So the shape of the industry is changing, and the challenges because of that are changing. I do think the issues that we're facing as a country, or as a global economy, are having a real impact on smaller brands. It's having an impact on those startups being able to get investment, and everything just feels really hard at the moment. And, whether that is going to have an impact and things are going to start shifting again, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, and Lucy, would you just need to talk about some of the negatives of this? Not about 2 miles from where I'm stood here in Bury St Edmunds, there's a very big food machinery company that deals in secondhand food machinery. So say like Bakkavor were looking to repurpose a factory, and they needed to get rid of the kit. This business would pick it up and then resell it mainly into the likes of Eastern Europe. But they've got a big boom. with new businesses started up in the food sector, and speaking to the owner, they unfortunately love the likes of new gin businesses. And he gave this example to me about a year ago, that there was a couple in London that had decided they don't want to be in London, and they wanted to create a gin business. And they went to a retailer. Somehow they managed to get a face-to-face meeting without actually having any product. And the retailer said, "Oh, yeah, that sounds of interest." So they then went to remortgage their house. They rented some space, bought all new high-end kit, put it all in there, started producing, got the first bottles out, went to the retailer, and said to the retailer, "Oh, how many units do you want?" And the retailer said, "I didn't say I was going to buy it, just said I was interested." They then couldn't find any home for the product that they created, and they then had to dissolve the company because they had no business. And in steps my food machinery contact, and he goes, "Oh, here comes another one." And just to top and tail that, we had someone in the office recently who's in a specific food sector, and they've just got a very niche product, and they can't get any face time with the retailers because the retailers are so busy, and there's another 30 different lines of this particular product, and they're finding it really difficult to gain traction. All their costs have gone up because of Ukraine. So Lucy, just on that side, have you? So two things: have you got to be quite selective as to who you work with, and would you, if you got people coming to you saying, "Oh, I want to start a food business," would you have quite a hard conversation with them to make sure they're doing the right thing and got it set up on the right basis?
Yeah, and I think that's what I meant about the shape of the industry changing again, because things are harder for sure, and the barriers to entry are harder now. I think the businesses that I get involved in tend to be slightly more established. They tend to be slightly further down the road. So I tend to help people at the stage where they may even already be manufacturing on a small scale, but it's then how they make it more commercially feasible to take that next step to scale. Yeah, that can actually be the biggest challenge, because as you say, you've got to have a really clear proposition to be able to step it up into bigger retail and have it commercially viable for them, especially now because costs are so challenging. Yeah. But absolutely, I would be having very clear conversations with people who are coming to me in those very early stages, because, you know, I've been in that position. I've been in a position where I've liquidated a business. And we've actually got a podcast on the topic of liquidating, because we thought that it was timely, because when I liquidated Pudology, it was end of 2019, and I reached that decision because we'd had 7 years of growth. Basically, I entered the plant-based market before plant-based was really a term in 2012, and helped create that category. We were the first chilled plant-based desserts to the market. But by the time I left, the likes of Goo were coming in and having that space. And so I couldn't compete in that space because we never got outside investment. We grew the business organically. Yeah. But I know the pain of, creating a brand and then having to say goodbye to it like that. Yeah. And, I really feel for that example that you gave about people that, remortgage their house. I mean, people do put, everything on the line for this, and it's really hard. And, there is a lot of competition. And I think there's more competition in specific categories, but also some categories and product areas are easier to enter because it can be easier to produce a product for a cheaper cost in some categories. And I launched products into the chilled category, which is a crazy thing to do but there's less people doing that. But it is harder because of the cost of transport, and obviously that is and storage, and that is going up all the time as well.
Yeah, and that's where I think you're going to be fantastic going into businesses, because you've got it, warts and all. If they're a relatively well-established business, but just like you were, if they've been slightly busy fools because they're having to do everything, to have your mercurial touch come in and give the magic dust as to how they can then progress the business and produce a product that's going to be exceptional at good margin, and the business is just going to grow with it, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. And that's what I like to try and bring to clients that I'm working with is, and I do like, I like to utilize the experience that I've had of those, I say like the 7 years of pain that I went through. and this is a big thing about Amy and I starting the podcast. It was like, you know, I've had this experience and it was incredible fun as well. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, yesterday I shared a photo of me and my dad on a pallet stacker, and it's
brilliant.
Yeah, it's just my favorite photo because it just encapsulates everything about that period of time. You know, we spent so much time at the factory, and you know, there were a lot of really, and the thing is, it's like anything like that you live through that is really hard work, but you kind of get something out of, when you look back on it, it's like, oh, wasn't that fun? Even though it was really, really hard. So, but I do like to take the experiences and, you know, add value where I can, and talk about it and talk openly about the you know, the really hard bits, about the fact that we, you know, in the end we did have to liquidate it, and you know, that feeling of it felt like a failure, but I hope that I've come out of it and I'm able to sort of put that knowledge to good in other businesses and offer advice in that way.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree on this call that the better people I meet are those that have had some adversity in their life, whether that be on a social, domestic, or a business perspective. I remember an old landlord of mine, Lucy. This is years ago, 15 years ago. We were having a tough time with my recruitment business, and we couldn't pay the rent that month. And I went to the landlord and I said, "Oh, Mr. Landlord, we've got this problem." He said, "Max, it's fine. You'll work up a problem. You'll work up a solution. No one's died. You'll learn from it. It's fine. Just come up with a plan." Oh, that's what a great thing to say. And you look at you, all the experiences that you've had in the last 7 years to be able to deploy that back into the food sector. So coming to back to the food sector, you sort of already intimated it. Supply chain challenges. Oh God, you got all these things going on, whether it be empty shelves or the Ukrainian crisis pushing up various costs. What are you advising your client base at the moment as to how they can row through this storm and create success on the back of it?
Well, I think it's, you know, I think we have all had to accept over, like, when COVID started, it was like we sort of got to this position where it was like, God, it's really hard, isn't it, at the moment, you know, but there was this feeling that eventually it would get better. And I feel like we've got to a point where it has just got really hard, and it's going to be like that for quite a long time. And I try and look at the individual problems that come up and find individual solutions, basically. And I think one of the things that makes people feel better is one of my clients messaged me and said, we were talking about a problem, and she said something like, are you hearing this from other people, this type of issue people? Or because it just feels like me. And I thought that was really interesting because it wasn't. And I said to her, like, you know, everybody is feeling this. Everybody is finding this really hard. And I said, even it's not just in the food industry either. Like, it really is. Like, my husband works in a completely different industry, and you know, he's feeling it as well. So I think one of the things that I do, because especially when you're working in a startup or an early stage business, you can feel very isolated. So one of the things that I try and do is sort of be the outsider, you know, feeding in as well, and sort of saying, look, you're not alone. Everybody is feeling this. And every business will have slightly different challenges, but the supply chain issues, I think, cause a bit of a ripple effect through the product development process, because you have issues with products that you're currently developing, so new products that you're trying to get to market. So you might have supply chain issues on, you know, sourcing those new raw materials, or the raw materials are incredibly expensive. But you've also got issues with products that are already launched, but you're having to redevelop them because you've got supply chain problems with products that are already, so you might be having to find substitute ingredients, and that can have an impact on packaging and back of pack, and you need to redo labels, and you know, that has an impact on cost. But then further down the line, there could be issues on packaging sourcing, which can push launch dates back. you know, so I think development teams in bigger businesses as well are under immense pressure because their workloads have just increased dramatically, because you're not just focusing on, you know, new product launches and a bit of EPD. There's a lot of EPD work going on because of the challenges, and the stream going through all of this is cost. Because at every point where things need to be changed, there's the cost of the resource to be able to do these and make these changes. There's just the time that's needed. You know, there's more time that's needed to have contingencies in place, because I think more than ever, you know, we've always talked about, well, what happens if we can't get this raw material from this supplier? There's always been an element of contingency. But I think even, you know, when you're a small manufacturer or a small business, you might have a thought of those contingencies, but actually I think it's really a reality now, because there really are challenges in the supply chain and being able to get certain materials. So sorry, my cat just jumped on the back of the chair and made me jump.
Here's the cat. Love bomb. Oh, bless.
So
yeah,
I've lost my train of thought now, but yes.
Lucy, just a couple of things for me. I've said it so many times that we on a previous broadcast we had a fantastic lady buyer from Pig and Pay on from South Africa, and as she said, "Oh, Max, we've got so many issues, but never waste a crisis. Never waste a crisis. We'll be a better business on the back of this." And again, if you that whole point that you made about your client feeling that the lonely, everyone is in the same scenario. So to be able to, we did a broadcast earlier today with Jed Futter, who's a retail expert, and he was saying that everyone is in the same boat. If you feel lonely, join a group, whether it be the likes of the NFU, National Farmers Union, or groups that align to your sector, or listen to your podcast, and then you'll hear it all, that you're not alone, and also to have confidence, and wherever you get that confidence from, whether it be from your podcast or aligning with groups, just to see you through this I don't want to say crisis because that sounds a bit dramatic, but the scenario that we're going through, it will get better, and the better companies will survive, but they need to pull on the likes of yourself, Lucy, to give them that expertise.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it is you know, joining forces with people, and I do think the food industry is so good at that. Like I always say I don't know whether I'm biased just because I've never really worked, you know, I started as a grad in food, so I've always been here. But I do feel like the food industry is a really welcoming. People love talking. I mean, I'm really active on LinkedIn, and you know, it's just this, you know, women in food and farming is a great example of, you know, networking with other like-minded people, and everybody, you know, doing it to try and help other people and bring people on and support everybody. You know, it's really important, and I think we're really lucky to work in an industry where it's normal.
That is so collaborative. I love this word, as everyone in Women in Food and Farming know. I love this word, collaboration. It's been my word for the last couple of years. So just on that point, do you think there are opportunities with what the team do at Women in Food and Farming to support product development teams in the industry? How can we all collaborate more, do you think, to make a success, to make a unique selling point for the products that everyone's generating?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I just think the more people that know about women in food and farming, and it's about networking, isn't it? I mean, I went to the last in-person networking event that Women in Food and Farming did.
Okay.
It was fantastic. And, you know, the thing is about the food industry as well, it's a really small industry, so you tend to like bump into people that you haven't seen for a while. So, you know, I hadn't seen Debbie for ages, and I bumped into Debbie at the Women in Food and Farming event, and I went with an ex-colleague from Marks and Spencer's, and I hadn't seen her for ages. And you know, I think it's about engaging, starting conversations, doing stuff like this, going to the in-person events, and it, like, in-person networking isn't my favorite thing to do at all. And
no, I don't believe that.
That's why I go with other people.
Rubbish.
I have to walk in with somebody else. But once you're there, it's brilliant because you get to meet so many people. And, you know, that's, I think, talking about women in food and farming and success stories of just, you know, teaming people up and I know from the in-person event that I did, I connected with lots of people at the event, and in fact we've invited one onto the podcast.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I just think there's loads of opportunity because everybody's got such diverse experience.
Yeah.
That it's really interesting. I mean, I was really interested when I went to that networking event to talk to some of the people that are involved in the agri-tech side of things, because that's not something that I know an awful lot about, but I'd been reading around it, and that gave me the opportunity to actually speak to people that worked in that side of the industry. And I think that diversity of conversation is really important.
Yeah, and I'm just spinning this off the top of my head, but you look at the likes of vertical farming, which is in its ascendancy, but it also needs people like you to come in and give them a direction as to on a product development front as to what can be grown aboard. There's a company down in Kent, Grow Up Farms, that's just launched the first saddle line on a vertical farming perspective into Iceland. And you look at the obvious product development that's gone into the packaging and the whole offer. There's so much to be had there. Just on product development, do you think there might be a hiatus as we work through this financial period over the next 2-3 years? When retailers and other customers don't need it, they just need to have straightforward things. They don't need anything overcomplicated. Do you think product development is going to be part for a bit, or actually is this the time now to really go for it? There's Lucy, there's that great example. I always get it wrong. It's either Pepsi or Coke in the recessions in the 80s. One of them backed off all their marketing. One of them doubled their marketing, knowing that they would come out of the recession and they would be in a better and stronger place, and they subsequently were. So you should be negative in this sort of climatic period. But do you think there's a threat to product development that some companies will look to curtail investment in it?
Well, I'm sure they will, but I think business, you just given a really good example there. Businesses that do that always do suffer, and they do then have to, reignite it again, because the reality is that, well, particularly through hard times, people want to indulge themselves. Now, that doesn't mean, I don't mean indulgence in terms of, it can be luxurious, but it's things that they want that are going to make them feel good. Yep. And, food and treats and just things that we consume make us feel good, and so therefore the product development and the innovation won't stop, and most businesses know that they need to keep innovating. That's how you keep your customers. And I was talking to someone the other day and gave a really good statistic, which actually is probably going to be on a podcast. I think it was on a podcast that we recorded, where 50% of your 50% of your heavy customers won't be your heavy customers next year. So you've got to keep. It's about keeping things interesting and exciting and new. Whether that be with real innovation and newness, or whether that is just redeveloping your existing products to make them better and more relevant. The development process can't stop.
It's the Blockbuster effect, isn't it? Look at Blockbuster or Kodak. We're going to be here forever. And they get smashed over. Then some really positive examples, the likes of Hotel Chocolat, and they always find that they have an increase in sales in a recessionary period or financially, because people want to feel good. So look at chocolate, and likewise lipstick sales go up, don't they? Because people. So I'm eating a lot of chocolate and using a lot of lipstick at the moment, Lucy.
I believe it, Max. You're looking fabulous.
What was the other example? Yeah, but then you got slightly old examples like Greggs. Was it today or yesterday? Have just announced that they're going to be opening another 120 stores because they found a good route into the market. And I don't particularly like them because of what they sell, and there's no fresh produce in there. But all credit to them, because the product development that they've created within their stores is working, isn't it? They found what the consumer wants, and we can definitely learn. So you're positive. You're positive that product development, if all these companies are deploying product development, a bit like the marketing example I gave with Coke and Pepsi Cola, now's the time to use PD. Now's the time to bring it into your business.
Oh yeah, I think it's about understanding what the consumer wants, and doing product development that's suitable for the market that you're in at that time. And it's about understanding your consumer and working within the parameters that you've got to develop the best products that you can, basically.
Yeah.
And unfortunately you've got to do that in the environment that you're in at the time, and that this is the world that we're living in at the moment, so we have to work around it.
Yeah, and then we've got this other complexity that everyone's been squeezed on margin. Plastic. I was in Ghana last week with an amazing fresh produce business called Blue Skies and Waitrose, and it's all funded by UK Aid around this initiative that's been called Fresh Packed, and it's trying to find solutions for plastic in the manufacturing of products. So all the people in the factories who are using single-use plastics for overalls and things, and also the plastic tubs that everything comes in. And they had 4 teams that came out to look at in Ghana how plastic is used and deployed to try and find solutions for it on a plastic basis. For yourself and your clients and for the greater food industry, what's your view of packaging? How can you see packaging changing over the next few years?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think all the discussions around sustainability and food miles, carbon footprinting, I think there's going to be a really big focus on packaging and how we use packaging. And I mean, we have daily conversations in my house about the amount of packaging that we just accumulate. And I think there's, I think plastic has a place.
Yep.
And plastic isn't always the enemy. And I think there's a huge educational piece around sustainable packaging and how it's made, how it can be used, how it's recycled. And I just think there's a huge educational piece around it. I think I've been really lucky because I did some product life cycles for one of my clients, and that was really insightful, understanding the impacts that different ingredients have and different packaging types have. And just because a product, a piece of packaging looks like it's environmentally friendly, the carbon taken to produce that might be significantly more than the carbon taken to produce the plastics. So you've got to take the whole thing into consideration. And I think, as companies start to do that and decide what their focus as a business is going to be on from a sustainability perspective, then things will start to improve. And I think we'll see businesses having, a view on, we are going to focus on our carbon footprint, or we are going to focus on having developing products that are, particularly good for biodiversity. And I think that's going to be really interesting. And I think that's going to be where the sustainability piece starts to go, because it's such a complicated area.
Yeah, and Lucy's spot on. And it's got to be genuine. You and I are going to hold hands on this one. We've both seen some examples of a bit of greenwashing going on, perhaps not in our sector, but in other sectors, because it's easy to add the sustainability message on a website, but it's actually got to be genuine. And that's one good thing about the food industry, isn't it? That you very quickly get found out if the products that you're promoting have stated they've got a sustainable background, haven't, because it would just be shown very quickly. But I'm really excited about the future of that, because it's a big problem at the moment globally. But just seeing some of the things I've seen and learning from you, I'm positive that there will be changes, but we need to see them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is a really complicated area, but I think people are more and more wanting to learn about it. And I think that's another reason why I like working with early stage businesses, because they tend to be, it's easier. Like when you're first starting, you can create, decide what your story wants to be. I think it's harder for really big businesses where you've got to go backwards and it's a much bigger, much more complicated beast.
Because what's an example? It's a bit like the automotive sector that have had to pivot to stop producing petrol diesel cars and move to electric cars. With the likes of Tesla, they just built a new factory and built electric cars, whilst the likes of the Audis have had to repurpose it. It is so difficult to move that oil tanker, isn't it? As a business. So Lucy, just before we bring the gang back in, just not many people are listening or watching, but just can you just give us some of the secrets? What are the more exciting and innovative things that we can see in PD that you're excited about over the next few years? What are the secrets? What's happening? What's coming along the tracks?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things that I think is around cell-based technologies. It's the technologies that are coming up, which are really exciting. And I think that's cat warning. Carry on.
Oh, I know.
From when I started in the industry to now, technology has changed and has come on so much. And there's a really, the cell-based and cultivated area is
Okay.
really coming on. And I don't know how long it will be until we see cell-based products in the UK, because at the moment they're classed as novel foods, but whether that will change, I'm not sure. But you can, this first, I think they are on sale now in America, and definitely in Singapore. But I think that's an area that's really interesting. And because I've been hearing about it for quite a long time, I feel quite comfortable with it, and I'm quite excited by it, and I would eat it, and I'm really intrigued by it. But it's interesting when you ask people sort of outside of the food industry, there's quite mixed reactions.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really exciting area, and I think I think mushrooms and fungus in general is an interesting area to watch, because I think there's going to be a lot more coming out on that side of things, and fermentation of fungus as well. So I think there's, and then I think the bigger ones that people already know about are the gut health and nutritional personalization. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more products personalized to you. We're already, Holland and Barrett have already got something where you can get personalized products, and I think that is in line with overall trends in general about people wanting things that are specifically for them as well. And I think that also goes to that indulgence that we were talking about, and really treating yourself and really understanding yourself. And that goes alongside the gut health and immune health, and really understanding ourselves, and products being developed to be very specific. And it's really drilling down into the overall health and wellness trend that has been around for ages, but it's really becoming very personalized, and really understanding that a bit more.
That's so exciting. Debbie, Christine, Kirsty, Beverly, do you want to come back in? Do you remember, Lucy, functional foods within Bakkavor? It might have even been within Geese. Well, let me get this right. That's so you go to a doctor, and they would analyze your blood, and they would say you're a red triangle, so you should only buy red triangle food for your particular probiotic status. And Bakkavor were looking to do a project where you would then have pizza or salads, and you'd have a red triangle or a green circle, and you would buy that sort of food. So it's basically that next level, Lucy, is it, of functional foods that we might be looking to see?
I guess so. I mean, there are like supplement companies and like protein powder from a sports nutrition perspective, where you can give like DNA samples and have things like specifically personalized to you, and you can do there are Zoe, Tim Spector, if you can get onto his Zoe thing, I can't remember the full name, I'm rubbish, I can't believe it's the first time there's something that happened because I always can't remember how to say things. But you can do your gut microbiome and then be given specific supplements and specific ingredients and dietary recommendations for you that are tailored to you, what is going on in your body.
Beverly, geez, £500 million turnover business, UK, Spain, Senegal, America. Product development, is that a key element for your business?
Yeah, usually varietal development. So there are products, certainly for the lettuce and celery. So we have variety trials weeks, and we work really closely with the seed houses. And for beetroot, so in the food manufacturing side, of course, there's a lot of EPD. And we've always got one eye on MPD too.
Sorry, Beverly, we won't talk about turnips because that was last week's story, wasn't it? Sorry, Beverly. Kirsty, with MDS, with the number of trainees that you've got, product development, are you seeing an ascendancy of product development within food companies?
Absolutely, we definitely see an increase in businesses looking for trainees for NPD type roles. They find it quite useful to have a fresh face coming in to test new things, and young people are bringing in new ideas. They've got a very different outlook on what they want the future to be like. And we definitely see a lot of trainees coming in who are applying for those particular types of NPD roles. And actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask Lucy was, for young people or people looking to enter this type of career, what would you say your top 3 skills that they would need to have, particularly if they're not coming from a nutritional or product development background?
Lucy.
Really good question. I think top of the list is, top of the list, what's on the top of my list? Definitely a passion and an understanding of food in general is just really important. And to be honest, most people that want to come into food have that.
Yep.
But I think it's that being able to understand how your passion of food can then be interpreted into products that consumers want. So it's having that that consumer understanding as well and appreciation. I think it's really important to have really good project management skills, because when you're a product developer, because you're involved in the process from concept to launch, and there's other people that come in at different times, you generally are the one that's pulling everything together and managing the critical path, and that can sometimes be overlooked. And if you don't work in the industry, you might not actually realize that you really need to have really excellent project management skills and be the one that kind of brings it all together. So I think that's also a really important point. And sort of coupled with that is the ability to manage lots of different people and be the person that, it is a difficult role, because you can be sometimes seen as the person that's being difficult, being the one that's having to go to the operations manager to find out if you can do a trial that's at a really inconvenient time, and talking to people that aren't necessarily the most approachable people in the business. So you do need to possess those kind of personable skills, but also be able to have that confidence to do that. And I think that they're two of the things that you don't necessarily appreciate until you're in the role.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm a brief stint in NPD myself. Being able to bribe production managers and having a ready supply of biscuits at any point to chuck into a staff room always helped to grease the wheels.
That's outrageous. Beverly.
I was just thinking, Lucy, and you partly answered the question, but I noticed that you run people development alongside your business development, and wondered, why did you do that? And do you feel that's a really important aspect of the work that you do on the podcast?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's because what I was just saying about you start in the food industry. I came into the food industry because I had a passion for food. You then start your job and realize that, oh my God, you've got to be a negotiator, and you've got to work with all these different people that are very different to you because they're working in technical or production, and it's actually quite terrifying, and it's all very overwhelming. And some people are really good at adapting and creating those skills within themselves, but other people don't, and so they then leave the industry. And we have got, one of the things that we didn't talk about is that, there is a bit of a crisis on people, and, we don't have enough really good people in the industry, and we definitely don't have enough people coming into the industry. So one of the things that Amy and I talk about is, we want to be able to develop those skills so that people, particularly within development, because that's sort of my skill area, stay in development, and
well done.
We utilize the skills that we've got, and we don't lose people just because they haven't naturally got the skills to be able to speak to a procurement manager or an operations manager. So yeah, I think it is really important. And because we work in such a fast-paced environment, it's not always something that is readily available within the businesses that you might find yourself working in.
Yeah. Just to jump in, Debbie, if it's okay, I'm going to send Harper Adams, other fantastic universities are available, Lucy's podcast, because I think for some of the students at the likes of Harper and Newcastle and Cirencester and Writtle and Reading to hear from Lucy, just Lucy to get engaged with the whole PD world will be exciting to them. We're definitely seeing more of an interest of people wanting to come, younger people wanting to come into the sector. But as we all know, and definitely Beverly and Kirsty will tell you this, it's hard to find people to join their businesses, let alone on a recruitment perspective. Christine, PD within your career, has it been important for the teams that you've been running?
Well, yes, it has. I mean, I worked for Mars, where I was actually doing the launch of things like Tracker and Skittles and things like that. So product development is something that I know a lot about, and actually the whole idea of managing people and getting on with people and understanding, whether it be distribution or manufacturing or sales or marketing, and all of that comes together in terms of when you're launching a product. And my role at the time of the launch of Tracker was actually product planner. And you just had to you had to pull everybody together, because they all knew what they were doing, but actually how that all interlaced with each other and what the impact of that was hugely complicated. I mean, I actually did find it was very odd at the time, because they put the best production planner on the Mars bar and the brand new one on Tracker. And I just thought, I just had absolutely no idea how difficult new product development is. I mean, it's the most uncertain bit of working in any business.
Yeah,
but,
that's Go on, Christy.
I wanted to make a point that Lucy made about people asking, is this happening to anybody else? I would have said that was one of the key things as Groceries Code adjudicator, that when suppliers are being asked things by retailers, you feel so isolated, and you feel that somebody's made an unreasonable demand, but you don't realize that it's very often a retail wide driven initiative, and they're all asking the same things. So actually, being able to having other contacts in the industry, having networks, having people you can speak to is enormously helpful to know that you're not the only person that's being asked this. And particularly if you're being asked something that is against the Groceries Code of Practice, then you know that there's enough of you to then raise it with the adjudicator and even to do it anonymously. But you're not alone. Lots of people are going through exactly the same things as you, and having networks is so important in terms of being able to try and address them.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, that was the one fear I had before this broadcast, was that people would be backing away from PD because of the economic issues that we've got. But Lucy, it just feels that more and more, that the more time and investment that can be put into PD, the more beneficial it will be for business. I'm just going to lean on Beverly on that with her superior food background. Beverly, would that be correct?
Yeah, it would, but for all sorts of roles. I think that's that product management skill is necessary in lots of jobs. So I would say that's kind of one of those meta skills that if you learned, you can apply in all sorts of places. Yeah. So I reckon highly valuable.
But product development happens all the time. There's new product development is obviously not, that tends to go in waves, but products are always being developed, and particularly when you've got supply chain issues, you are having to say, well, if we decide to switch from cane sugar to beet sugar, what's that actually going to mean, and what does that do to the recipe and things like that? You do have to understand this product development is ongoing on every single product, even ones that you've known for 50 years.
Yeah, everyone was slightly running out of time. Debbie, do you want to take it from us all and wrap up and thank our illustrious speaker of the day?
So I'd like to thank Lucy. I thought that was very illuminating and fast-paced. And it's just great to have an insight into the complexities, but also the passion and the steering of being able to launch new products or develop products beyond where they are at the moment. And there's an awful lot of need and capacity for that in fresh produce, let alone in things like made products. So I found that really insightful, and I'd like to thank Lucy because it's been quite inspiring. So,
thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's been really lovely.
Lucy, where can we find you on social media, LinkedIn? How can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Lucy Wager. I'm there.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And just before Lucy, thank you. Just before we wrap up, my thought of the TV series. I've had a couple of people. Someone claiming to be Jeremy Clarkson. Christine wants to see our TV series on Dave. You up for that?
Yes, Max. Yes,
it's been had.
Yeah.
Right. And who's going to say? Has anyone got the dates of your next person events? So
I do.
Go.
I do. So our next Women in Food and Farming event is on the 4th of April. It's at Savills in London. Our guest speaker is Susie Dealey, who is the Chief Executive of Rabbi, which is the benevolent institution and supports people all through the farming industry who are in particular need. And they've got new research that they're going to take us through, which is absolutely brilliant. The invites you can find on Eventbrite. If you sign up to Women in Food and Farming, which you can do on if you go into any of Max's Beanstalk Global recordings, he always puts all of the list of all the contacts. We will, as of International Women's Day, have a website, which is womeninfoodandfarming.org. You'll be able to sign up there. And if none of those work, just send me, just Google me and send me a message through the contact form. But we'd love to have loads of people there. And I just wanted to wish, well, first of all, so before I actually go just to say, Max, you've been a superstar. You have been so supportive to us. And hopefully you'll be a friend of Women in Food and Farming forever. But then to say to everybody, happy International Women's Day on the 8th of March.
Excellent. Just to wrap up, Lucy, what's the name of your cat?
Mimi.
So we thank, was it Penny, Debbie, your new grandchild? Yes. We'd like to thank Penny, and we'd like to thank Mimi and Beverly, Lucy, Debbie, Kirsty and Christine. Women in Food and Farming, March, done and dusted. Lucy, you're brilliant. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.